All right. So I'm hell bent on getting this done before Shabbat, but everything keeps getting in my way. Anyway, okay. So I think the year was not that I knew what the hell a year was at the time, but 1981, give or take. And you were in this class with me. Now I don't know if you were like present that day or if you remember. So here's the other story about it. There was always that kid that was a troublemaker in the class, and for what that means when you're in the first grade. And I remember there was this kid. His name was Nathan. It's another one of those 90 something percent sure that was his name, Nathan. And he was one of those kids that just was getting yelled at by her more than anyone else. Although a lot of kids were getting yelled at by her, and I remember she just had a very short temper. My mother told me, and I'm assuming the teacher overshared with my mother during a parent-teacher conference. I think, but there was a kid that was just he would always look for that one thing to see if he could get away with it. It's sort of like. And I don't remember anything else he did because this would eclipse him. Now, I didn't see what he did because I never paid attention in class. If you don't remember, it's something I was getting scolded for a lot. But I don't know what I was doing, but I was definitely looking away because I would have remembered if I saw it. Now, for context, she decided to come up with a form of punishment, essentially solitary confinement. She took a really big file of cabinets. There was a like remember how big they used to be in the old days? I don't think you'll ever find this in a school now, but you'd have cabinets that were at least a couple of feet taller than an average adult male. She took two of those and cornered them in a room. Oh, sorry, put them in a corner of the room and then put something over it so it was dark inside. And if you were getting out of line, she would put you in there and not let you come out until a certain amount of time. I guess it was I don't know if that was a quiet room, but you get the idea. Not inherently a terrible, punishment. It's not the Inquisition or anything like that. But I remember for most of the kids it seemed to work. But Nathan always wanted. I think he said something like this once. One day he does something. Again, I didn't see it, but he pulls his pants down and moons the class, or flashes them. I don't know which end he showed the class because I wasn't paying attention to anything going on. But all I remember is commotion, like all the kids were like, ah! And Nathan, and she's yelling at him. And I'm like, what? What happened? What happened? Again, I'd have to pay attention in class to know what the hell happened. So, alas, he pulled his pants down. Again, it might be interesting for context to know which end, but I don't know. So she decides to put him for punishment in the dark room, we'll call it. Again, it's not really a room. The sectioned off makeshift room made out of file cabinets and what else. And he starts off by saying, I like it in here. This is fun, Well, you know how it is when you're a kid. 1 minute seems like, damn near an hour. And you can be smug after about 5 minutes, but more than that, you get bored real easy and antsy. And she says to him, if you like pulling your pants down so much, then I don't want you coming out of there unless your clothes are off. I didn't think I heard her right the first time. How old am I? 6? And I'm like, did I hear that right? And she says something else, double downing. So no, that's what she said. I think it's funny because I think Nathan is going to hold out until the end of the school day. And I know I may not know much, I'm 6 years old, but I know she's not going to keep him after school. They didn't do that back then. In fact, I didn't even know that was a thing until I got into like the 3rd or 4th grade. And I'm thinking it's funny because you probably remember how I used to be, and what do? We project. We assume everybody else thinks like we do until learned otherwise. You know, so I'm thinking there's nobody in the world that's going to walk out of this thing with the clothes off, even if the teacher says they have to. Because you remember how I was. I used to, if you gave me a shirt with too short of sleeves, I'd put a sweater on before I left the house, if you remember. You know, I was like that. I was like that until pretty late in life. I'm not, contrary to the threads now, I'm actually not necessarily inherently like that, beyond for social reasons, you know, but at that time, you know, I'm thinking nobody would do that. I was wrong. And whether I was wrong in this time, well, you know, he starts begging the teacher, Mrs. Walden, can I come out now? And I'll never forget this, verbatim, I remember this. Not if your clothes are on. I seem to remember giggling because I'm thinking, okay, but what's she going to do in the long run? She, after a while, and I don't know how long went by because you know how time is when you're a kid and you're looking back on it, but I'm thinking, okay, so she was bluffing. Not that I knew that word, but she was bluffing. So fast forward, I don't remember the first time I told the story, but I didn't mention it until after that school year. It just didn't come up in conversation, I guess. Or if I did tell anyone, I don't remember. But I remember telling my mother when I was somewhere in the second or third grade, so give or take 2 years later. And I still think it's kind of funny, you know, because again, it's the teacher's bluffing. She knows he's not going to call her bluff. And my mother says, what? Because I'm like 7, 8 years old by the time I'm telling her this story now, in retrospect. I'm thinking, she goes, what if he came out naked? And I'm like, yeah, but he wouldn't. Yeah, he could have. Some kids would do it. And in retrospect, it's like, yeah, if he was bored enough, and you know, he doesn't. I remember being stuck in daycare when I was a kid, and that seemed like, you know, it was only like, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours. It seemed like days. You know, I remember how it being of a kid's mind at the time. So I was telling the story to my son the other night. I don't remember, or I should say the other morning. Both kind of night birds. So around the time I sent you that, we were both reeling down, getting ready to go to sleep. And it was like, and my son was like, are you kidding? You'd get arrested for that. I'm like, I think you could possibly get arrested for that even back then. I think. I mean, she didn't. If he had come out without his clothes on, then there's no question. Even in 1980. Wait, 82. It had to have been 82. I'm one of those still. Like if I trip up on a date and I get the number wrong, I get all freaking autistic about it, and I'm like, oh, it was 82. Wait, no, could have been that. It had to be as. Moving on, probably 82. We'll leave it at that. And I wonder, as I'm telling him the story, I wish there was somebody else that could vouch for me that might have seen this, because I'm telling the story and I don't want to believe myself. What kind of a freaking crazy teacher does that? Now, my mom told me stories about this woman. Again, going back to what I was touching on before. And she said the woman would come home at the end of the day crying because the kids drove her that crazy, that our class was especially bad. It wasn't as far as I could tell, but I'm sure I wasn't the best judge of that. And simply the fact that she was telling my mother this story, which I think is how she found out. I know my Aunt Barbara was involved in the school somehow. Maybe she knew. I'll probably never find out exactly how, but I'm assuming she learned it from parent-teacher conference, and the woman overshared with her. But she was really like at the point of close to having a mental breakdown at the time. But something tells me something wasn't right with her hardware in the first place. You know, just kind of wondered what happened there. So I'm mostly wanting to tell this story One, because I'm recalling it better now that I told my son. And I was curious if you remembered anything about this at all, in any way. Now, you were saying you even forgot the name of the school itself, so who knows? But it's funny, though, that you don't, because I remember you really liking, you and your sister, really liking school as a kid, whereas and I'm sure you remember this, I hated school passionately. Damn, I really did. But, so maybe you have some memory of this at all. So over to you. Let me know if you remember a teacher at any point in your data banks in there that might have threatened a kid that if he didn't do X, I'm sorry, if he didn't come out naked, then he was going to have to do X, and this place X was stay in that room. Or do you remember the room? That's another question. I know you never went in it. You were always well behaved. I never remember you getting in trouble for anything until like high school. I think there was something in junior high that at the time seemed bad, and I don't even remember what it is. But you were not one to get in trouble. I was, and it wasn't even usually deliberate. I just didn't know my ass from a hole in the ground. That's what I said. I'm pretty sure I'm autistic. I'm too old to diagnose. But anyway, all right. Hey, miss you. Give my regards to your sister and your mom, even though, your sister, remind her of bad times. And do it anyway. Just say hi. Anyway, Mom. Is it? Yeah. And I hope you're doing good. I hope your kids are doing good. I hope your husband's doing good. Oh, and and also, sundown's coming up in a few hours. So if I hope you respond to whenever you can. If you do soon, probably won't be able to get back with you. Shabbat starts at sundown, and I don't know if you looked close at my profile, but if you didn't, the jewelry doesn't give me away. But everything Orthodox shuts down phones, so I don't respond or even look at my mobile devices or PC or anything like that. Electronics get shut down for about 25 hours, and my birthday is tomorrow night too. Yeah, I know it's the second. For the convenience of my Goyish friends that have birthdays that land on August the 1st, the 2nd, and the 3rd, I decided, you know what, guys? I got 2 calendars. You got 1. So I'm going to take the one that doesn't run into everybody else now, and I'm using the Jewish calendar for my birthday, so it's tomorrow night. And so I don't know if my birthday party that I'm doing for myself is going to be, it may slow me down, and I might not get back until Sunday. So there's still people to this day that literally happens almost every week, and these are always people I've told like a billion times. They'll text me on like Friday night at 9:30 or 11 or whatever, and then like at midnight or whatever, or the next morning, hey man, what the fuck? Hey, answer. Love you, but you should know by now. It's a whole nother video. Yeah. So. Yeah. So if you happen to get back by then, if you don't, then don't make a difference, does it? So, hope you're doing good. Hope your husband's doing good. Hope your kids are doing good. Hope Jenny's doing good. Hope Beverly's doing good. Over to you. I do.